Okay, our last pattern is the peace sign, and again it's a symmetrical pattern with either a stripe or a crumple on the outside, and again we're going to fold the shirt in the center. So we find the center line, shake it out, our lines are defined, fold your center line onto the fork, your top line to the same spot, and pull up the center. Now we've got two lines that we have to define here, so we're going to crumple that one. Let me start here. I'm going to make a line here. This defines all the lines in the center of the peace sign. And I'm going to pull it up. I have it kind of angled right in here so that I have a little bit left over that's going to define my circle. Bring that up like that. And this is another one that needs to be banded tightly. So that's my center lines, and then that's my outside line. And since we want well-defined lines, these bands have to be really tight. If you want symmetry in your sleeves, they can be nested and then pull them up into the center. And you can either do a fold pattern that'll radiate away from your peace sign just by doing this, or a crumple. Scrunch it up, and then you'll get more pattern around it, which sometimes it depends on your peace sign, can make it a little bit too busy. So, you know, dyer's discretion. All right, onto a white shirt. Okay, so we want our peace sign to be centered. We want it to be starting below the collar. Should be centered just below the bottom of the armpits. You want to stop your design about 10 inches short of the bottom so that you can tuck your t-shirt. You don't want to tuck the design into the bottom. Okay. Anything circular will work to define your design. So place it, make sure it's fairly even. Fortunately, I can dye a straighter line than I can draw. Your side arms on the peace sign are going to radiate from the center. Okay. Once you've got your design on, find your center line. Pick up the shirt. I usually like to put my thumb on here, pull it back, and make sure that my lines are fairly close. I mean, they don't have to be exact. because you're dealing with probably 1.5 inch wide lines, but at least close enough so that you're not going to be way off. Okay. And then again, find your center point. Find your line, and that defines the bottom. Bring this around. It's important to keep the fabric smooth so it doesn't fold at this point. There we go. Okay. And here's our line. So we have the center lines and the circle. You can feel it and make sure it's all smooth. Accordion fold down the center line. Remember that whatever you're doing here for the width of your line, this is half the width of your line. So if you want narrower lines, you're going to have to make this very narrow. If you want wider lines, make this piece bigger. That's too big. And very tight on this band. And then accordion fold your circle. Up to meet your center lines, like that. So you can see the line in here. And again, bend it tight. And sometimes I'll just take that last loop and put it over the line, and that holds the whole thing together. Okay. We're going to reach in and nest the sleeves. So through the back of the shirt. Nest our sleeves like that. Okay. And then a loose crumple. Keeping in mind that there's a lot of fabric in here. And one of the things we want to do is keep these ends away from here because we want a really strong definition. So when we tie it, we want to try and keep that pulled down and away from the design portion. What I'm doing here is opening it up a little bit so the fabric's not bunched so tightly because I don't want a lot of big white splotches in it. I want the dye to penetrate more evenly. So. Here you see I have the collar that's sticking right up against there, so I'm going to tie that down. Because I don't want it to pick up the color from the design. I'd like it to stay a different color. Okay, now we're ready to dye our shirt. I like to do rainbow colors on my peace signs. I like the peace sign to be maybe purple, red, orange, not so much yellow because that takes away from it, but to give it some bright colors. And then the body of the shirt usually is a dark color for a contrast. So we want a color on here that's going to give us some contrast between the peace sign itself and the shirt. On these patterns, it's really important to get your dye bottle down quickly so you don't splash on anything. That's defining my line. And then I want a very little bit of orange in there. And then the center of my peace sign will be red. I'm going to pull that away so it doesn't drip onto anything. The outside of my shirt will be blue. So we'll have a little bit of a green line right around it because the blue and the yellow will mix to create green. Again, the yellow is penetrated most of the way through, so I want to very sparingly here so we don't flood it. Okay. I'm going to go down here and get our green. And a little bit of orange. We finish with the red. Okay, I see a little bit of white on the collar that I want to. All right, and that's our peace sign.